Hey, good morning, guys. Happy Wednesday. Today, guys, we are going back to the My Favorite LJN tournament. We are currently on round one, episode 21. So, Monday morning, yeah, it was Monday morning, I did get in the sixth series to the Big Rubber Guys. So, tomorrow's episode, we will do a review of the Big Rubber Guys Series 6, which is going to feature Magnum TA and the two Jim Duggins. So, excited? Yes. Is it the most exciting series? Not really. And I'll explain why in that video. It kind of goes hand in hand with why it's not as exciting for Series 4. And it has a lot to do with the constant releases of the same characters over and over again. But again, we'll talk about that in the next video when we look at the Series 6 release from Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, Big Rubber Guys. Episode 21, man. I don't have any inkling of slowing down making these tournament videos. I'm really enjoying these videos. But man, I get really excited to talk about these figures, and sometimes it's extremely difficult to make a selection. And you guys, you've seen my videos in the past, especially anytime I've done these tournaments. Anytime I can't come up with a definitive answer, I will sit there and I will go on and keep talking, and hopefully a light bulb goes off in my head and I'm able to eventually select a winner. And it's making these videos go longer and longer. You guys know I want these videos to generally hover around 30 minutes. In the past, they've always gone 40, 45 minutes, and that was with like 5 matchups per video. Now we've cut it down to 4 matchups per video, and they're still going 40, 45 minutes. So I really got to do better with time management. So, with that being said, let's hurry up and dig in and find out what today's tournament matchups are going to entail. First matchup is going to include Davey Boy Smith from Robert Jackson, as he does battle against Hogan Black, Series 1, custom figure. Next matchup is going to feature, from Random Treasures, Mr. T, and he will square off against Mega Powers Macho Man. I always want to dig into the bottom because I feel like all these things at the top are giving me duplicate figures all the time. Blue Duggan with brakes. Okay. I got 2 Jim Duggins in blue, so I know which one that is. Versus Hillbilly Jim from Mark Hackenberg. That is sort of the prototype-esque version. And since these two are already sitting out, this one's going to feature Red Series 1 Andre, as he will do battle against the Great Muta. Alright, so these were on the floor. What were these? Alright, so this just fell out, so this is nothing. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get these figures pulled, and we will begin shortly. Alright, folks, so sit back a little bit. Figures are pulled, and we are featuring what I classify as Black Hogan, or simply your NWO Hogan, as he does battle against Davey Boy Smith. And I'm going to use, a lot of the time you get like these little pipe cleaners, and it kind of reminds you of that little feather scarf that you usually see Hogan with, especially WCW, with like that little yellow and red type scarf. But because I love the Series 1 Hogan so much, again, you're talking about one of the most perfect and pristine figures of all time. And I love the decision to go ahead and let every figure in this tournament be its own unique figure, and not put all Series 1 Hogans against each other. Because if I have, I don't know, let's say 5 different Series 1 Hulk Hogans, not to mention original Series 1 Hulk Hogan, that basically gives you 6 opportunities for a Series 1 Hulk Hogan to move forward to round 2, round 3, round 4, etc. 6 different opportunities for a Hulk Hogan Series 1 figure to win this tournament. Whereas in the past, Hulk Hogan Series 1 Original squares off against all of his customs, and I just chose whichever one I liked the best. And if I had, let's say, 5 customs or 4 customs, 3 customs, however many I had in the past, it's wasteful because you saw a very quick elimination for a lot of these figures. This is so well done. I don't remember where I got this one from. I think this was just a random seller. Either this was a random seller or, again, I talk about a lot of these customs that don't necessarily come from a particular customizer. Like all of Mark Hackenberg's customs I put on a shelf together. All Robert Jackson customs sit together. All Eric Boyer, aka Wrestling Writer figures, sit together. All Ram Treasure figures sit together, right? So normally at the very bottom shelves, you'll see like all these random Brutus Beefcake customs, Roddy Piper, Hulk Hogan, Series 5 figures, etc. And it's basically, yeah, you're grouping like figures together, but it's also because they didn't necessarily come from like one particular customizer. Maybe I just found some on eBay that I bought the figure from. Or a lot of times, Stanger GQ on eBay. A lot of stuff that he puts on auction, I buy a ton of them, or I had bought a ton of them, so I'm thinking maybe that's where I got something like this from. I wasn't watching WCW. I don't know a whole lot about Hulk Hogan as the turncoat, the guy that became bad Hulk Hogan. You know, all I know is that they did an absolutely remarkable job with this figure. And look, come on, man. Look at the overall detail. Everything from like the little lightning strikes, right? Down the pants. The color of the blue throughout the boots. Even by giving you like authentic black gloves. Didn't have to sit there and build on black gloves. Just painting the hands and wrist. Right over the wrist guards. Perfectly fine. And I've said before, of all of the Davey Boy Smith LJN figures, original LJN with red pants is fine. It's a good looking figure. I'm familiar with what I classify as my British Bulldog, not the British Bulldog tag team. So I don't really think about him as Davey Boy Smith. I just think of him as the British Bulldog. And I think about Series 4 Hasbro. I think about this particular look, right? Because that's the Hasbro figure I had as a kid, and is one of my more utilized Hasbro figures from play, because I was a little bit older. I was like, what? So Series 4 Hasbro came out in like 92, and Series 4 was the last series of figures that we ever had as kids. So Undertaker, Bret Hart, British Bulldog were the last 3 figures we ever got. So yeah, those 3 figures are going to stand out because those were, obviously, you're up there in age. Those ones you can remember playing with the most. Belt kind of gets in the way with the stand, but you can actually see the little UK flag on the back here. And sometimes I got to kind of use the stand to kind of keep the belt in place because the belt keeps coming loose. Not a big fan of the Velcro belts. Sometimes they function just fine, but something like what you get from Ram Treasure with the rubber belts with the LJN originals, I prefer those, obviously. They actually fit beautifully, and you don't have to worry about the Velcro coming undone or unglued over time. British Bulldogs are not bad figures. I've never coveted the whole mirror look of the figures. British Bulldogs, as I've always said, very small figures, one art pose with like the Bulldogs, and you look at like Ram Treasures, Bad News Brown, it kind of detracts from the overall figure. It's like the one arm up kind of makes it where it's not even a one arm, like one arm punching type. I feel like the bottom arm is really your utilized arm, and the way that it sits so far down, it's that too is not really serviceable. So to me, he's always been like a flying from the top rope clothesline guy, and that's basically his only attribute. So yeah, if I'm using the figure in a Royal Rumble or something, yeah, I can make use out of it. But I think the British Bulldogs, at least for original LJNs, to me are probably some of the least enjoyable figures. If I were a kid and I had them, again, by the time LJN ended, I wasn't even in elementary school yet, so I didn't even know about these figures for the longest time. So I wouldn't have had these as a kid. But again, if I was born 5, 7, 8, 10 years earlier, and I had these, British Bulldogs would have been one of my least favorite or least played with action figures. This is a no-brainer. Kind of think about it as original Series 1 Hogan against the British Bulldog. Either British Bulldog, Series 1 Hogan would have run away with it, and I do like the overall paint scheme. Nothing to take away from what Rob or a lot of customizers that kind of utilize this paint scheme do with these figures. I think this is an upgrade compared to the red pants. Do I like the blue pants or do I like the white pants version better? I like blue better than white, so that kind of answers my question, I guess. Plus, I do like the whole mid-'80s look of the light blue, sky blue pants. So, yeah, I guess I could go with the blue pants better anyway. So, but for this particular matchup, Hulk Hogan is going to defeat Davey Boy Smith. All right, next one we said was Mr. T squaring off against Mega Powers Macho Man. And we will go with the Mega Powers. How many Macho Man figures do I have, man? It's crazy. I feel like every single video I make, I have a Macho Man in my video. And I know I'm exaggerating when I say that, but it definitely feels that way. You look at the original Macho Man figure, okay. I just had a video with the red. Yeah, that had to be a very one I just did recently. So with the all red Macho King type, you got both the Wrestling Writer and Rob Jackson Macho King variant figures. There's Random Treasures Macho Man commemorative piece. There's the green shirted Macho Man figure. I know there's more. There's got to be at least 2, maybe even 3 more Macho Man figures in this tournament. Macho Man. I can understand acquiring this figure as much as I do because you're talking about one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. And because there are so many fantastic looks that you covet, yeah, you're really going to gravitate towards that. And when you look at a figure like this, Mega Powers with the Hogan look, right? The Hogan tag team, absolutely amazing. This was so freaking well done. And the robe to boot. A figure like this can go 4 or 5 rounds and it will have nothing to do with the fighting pose. Even though the white, red, and yellow, you think about the Series 1 Hogan, the color scheme of that Hogan is so plain with basically same colors. Red, yellow, etc. But the pose makes it absolutely incredible. That takes it all the way towards the end, right? Even though the pose of this Macho Man sucks, it's the overall look and display of it that's going to kind of make it balance it out with like that Series 1 Hogan as a playable figure. So, yeah, if this one defeats Mr. T, moves on to round 2, this could be a round 3, round 4 figure. Possible round 5 even. Maybe. Now, can he defeat any of his Macho King variants that have awesome robes, accessories as well? Probably. Possibility. But can he defeat Mr. T? Obviously, we're not looking at Mr. T as a legitimate wrestler, right? He and Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania 1. And the WWF, they do this all the time. They bring in all of these celebrities. Off the top of my head, they bring in guys like Donald Trump. In the early 80s or mid 80s, they had Mr. T and Cyndi Lauper. Later on, one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life, putting freaking Drew Carey in a Royal Rumble. He gets in the ring and he starts laughing at the other guys, and he like jumps over the ropes himself. Like, I love the Royal Rumble. I've said it before. I can't, as a fan, even as a kid, I never had one-on-one or tag team matches, or I had those very sporadically. Anytime I wanted to play with my wrestling figures, it was always Royal Rumbles, because I enjoyed the Rumble tournament, and I enjoyed being able to utilize many different figures. But as a fan sitting there and actually watching the competition, that is a complete waste of a roster spot. Or putting this I don't know what the heck you would call it, this dude that shows up in this female Royal Rumble in a dress and like a damn sock on his hand, like Mr. Socko, or trying to be like Mankind. I don't know what the heck that damn storyline was. Again, I don't watch wrestling, so that right there is so foreign to me. He's in there for like 2 seconds, uses the little sock as a snake, pretends to bite himself, and then jumps over the rope. Like, what the hell was that? You become so dumbfounded. Like, you're telling me you couldn't find a 30th wrestler to fill that slot? So no, when I look at Mr. T, no, he's not a legitimate wrestler. He's like your Lawrence Taylor and all these other celebrities and sports entertainers, etc., that just partake in wrestling and make things fun and interesting. But man, the Butch Reed Galoob figure is just behind Sid Vicious and Barry Windham as the number 3 all-time best Galoob figure. And when Ram Treasures decided to use Butch Reed Galoob 2-Up to make Mr. T, thank you. I could not be more in agreement or be more grateful that they made the right choice. I did get from Raider Nation a Mr. T figure before, but they used Tito Santana. The figure looks amazing, but come on, Tito Santana, really? This really is a fantastic matchup. The look of Macho Man is incredible, but come on, this right here, this is, and I could say this about 100 different figures, but it's accurate. It's not like I'm just blowing smoke. This is a legitimate potential candidate to win this tournament. Now, when I look at a lot of figures and I say, you know what, this figure is a potential legitimate candidate, or this candidate has a chance to go far, that's just it. They have a chance to, out of 325 or so figures or more, they have a chance to beat 150 figures, 200 figures, 250 figures. So yeah, they have the potential to go near the end, but but legitimately, could they actually win the tournament? And the answer is no. But a figure like this, absolutely, this figure could win this tournament. As much crap as I give Ram Treasures for a lot of their figures, and I give them a lot of credit for a lot of their amazing figures, but they have produced some of the most amazing action figures I've ever seen. Zeus is a front runner. Dusty Rhodes is very close. Mr. T is very close. Jerry Lawler is right up there. Undertaker is right up there. The Spikes, Legion of Doom, Road Warrior figures could be up there. So, Barbarian is right up there. This is an absolute killer figure. So I'm excited to see how far Mr. T could potentially go in this tournament. Next one is, who do I say? Blue Duggan with brakes versus Hillbilly Jim from Mark Hackenberg. So, I keep saying that Hillbilly Jim, he's like one of those figures that I've been excited to talk about in this tournament, because in tournaments past, in the previous two tournaments, I think I kept putting him up against Big John Studd in the first matchup, and Big John Studd kept cleaning house with him. And maybe in the first tournament, I probably didn't covet him as much. Even in the second tournament, if I did covet him a little bit more, probably not as much as far as potentially winning the tournament. By the time this tournament rolled around, maybe not your winner, but someone that I don't want to see gone in the first round. Someone I don't want to see gone in the second or third round. Someone I want to see go 4 or 5 rounds, because I do think it's a fantastic figure. With the bulkiness and play pose is adequate. Definitely better than most that you get from LJN. So, yeah, it's definitely a serviceable figure. So, I'm trying to think. I don't remember who the original Hillbilly Jim squared off against, but the original figure did lose in this tournament, and I want to say yes. One of his customs, the Santa Claus custom, did push forward so far. So there is a Hillbilly Jim. Technically, it's Santa Claus, not Hillbilly Jim, but there is a Hillbilly Jim custom. There is a Hillbilly Jim figure still in tournament so far. And I think there's another Hillbilly Jim Santa Claus custom in this tournament. So we're probably going to be looking at about, I think, 5 figures or so in total for Hillbilly Jim. I like this one, and I've been calling this one kind of like your prototype, because when you look at the back of the LJN card, this is exactly the look that they came out with. It wasn't a red shirt Hillbilly Jim, it was a black shirt. And of course, Mark, he did the right thing and he made the correct modifications. If you want an authentic prototype, is that necessary? Because I think even the prototype was an all blue coveralls. But my wife did it when she painted my Hillbilly Jim Santa Claus, and I really loved it and appreciated it. And I appreciate it with what Mark did on his figure. Fill in the metal hooks with silver. And you know what? He even made his own little design on the handkerchief. So I'm grateful for that. And I even think that this is an original hat as well. And if it's not an original, even if it came from Ram Treasures, I think Ram Treasures is like pretty spot on with their custom Hillbilly hat. So, like, most of the time I can't even tell a difference. So, either way, custom or original, it's spectacular. Now, this one I know I got from Stinger GQ, and if I can recall correctly, I think I only got this for like 25 bucks. And you can never get a Jim Duggan figure for like less than 50, 60 bucks. I mean, maybe if Jim Duggan had like massive paint loss or something, or maybe if like his thumb was bitten off or something, maybe it would go for like 40 bucks on auction if you were lucky. But for $25 for a good looking painted custom Hillbilly Jim, like, it didn't make sense to me. And, you know, realistically, it does make sense, because there was obviously severe damage to the figure, and that made it go for a lot less than otherwise. So I think most collectors, like most serious collectors, and you think a serious collector like myself probably wouldn't proudly display something like this, but I do, man. It's still very well done. But you kind of look at the arm, and the arm is absolutely destroyed. Now, this is, you know, a rubber figure, okay? This isn't resin or anything. But you do away with the black trunks and the white boots. I like this look because obviously the Jim Duggan Series 2 Hasbro figure, but with the Series 2 he had darker blue trunks and he had dark blue knee pads and he had black boots, not blue boots. So, but he did have the white laces. So, not 100% identical to the Series 2 Hasbro Jim Duggan, but very close. And I think that's the reason why I gravitated towards this one. Now, yeah, like a long time later, I did get another one very similar to this. But this was, I think, the first Jim Duggan LJN custom I bought. And I bought it specifically for this look. And kind of funny because I just got in my... Man, that's freaking weird, man. Just coincidentally, just today... yeah, just on Monday, I just got in my... my Series 6 Big Rubber guys, right? And the 2 Jim Duggan figures, but the 2 variants. We're part of that lot, right? So... have been... pulling this figure is freaking pretty awesome. So this would be a really pretty fun match. If you actually look at like play pose, like they're actually pretty mirrored. Now I've always said that Jim Duggan, I think Jim Duggan's probably a top 20 LJN figure for me. If he wasn't on a top 20, maybe not a top 25. He's like an Outback Jack. I think he's got a very similar pose. Very playable. One of the best playable figures. And if he's very similar to that of Hillbilly Jim, I mean, not 100% identical, but it is close enough. So, as a figure tournament, yeah. Because of the abnormalities of this particular figure, it's not exactly the most well done ever. So that, I think that would have made that figure obsolete against a lot of competition. With that being said, I think maybe I possibly would have chosen Hillbilly Jim either way. Maybe. Now if Hillbilly Jim went against original Jim Duggan, I don't know. I'd like to say that maybe original Jim Duggan could have won, but this was so well done. And like I said, they're relatively the same play pose figure, and the bulkiness of Hillbilly Jim. And this was, again, I look at this as a prototype design, so I enjoy this a lot more. And yeah, Jim Duggan, I do have a 2x4 accessory with him. I didn't pull it down, so. Unlike the hats, which are actually a little bit easier to work with. So, Hillbilly Jim is my winner. He will move on to round 2. Last matchup is going to feature a Series 1 custom of Andre the Giant as he does battle against the Great Muta. We will start with the Great Muta. This is a resin figure. I keep saying yes. It is very possible for a resin figure to win this tournament. When you look at the resins, again, I don't always care about play pose when they're resin because, in my opinion, or in my mind, they're straight statues and they're not playable wrestling action figures. You can sit there all day and try to wrestle and play with this if you wanted to. Give this to your kids, or if you're an adult and you have like these little wrestling matches or tournaments, yeah, you know, have some fun. Go for it. But in my mind, they're just straight statues, so the play pose isn't exactly the biggest thing for me. Some of the things I really enjoy, obviously I've talked about in the past where the face paint was among one of my favorites. When you look at like Ultimate Warrior and you look at Sting, Great Muta was probably one on that list among my top 3, top 5 favorite figures in that regard. Some of the graphics, design. Now I don't know what it actually says on his pants. That could be legitimate writing. That could be scraps. That could be made up characters. I don't know. They could be writing FU over and over again on there. I don't know, but it looks pretty awesome. And pretty much going with a Ricky Steamboat. I guess that was, I guess anytime you kind of go for like a Japanese wrestler or something like that, you're probably going to use someone like a Ricky Steamboat, which I think Ricky Steamboat was Hawaiian, if I'm not mistaken. So, but you know, a lot of time, if someone's from Hawaii, or if they're from like the Samoan Islands or something like that, the Philippines, a lot of time they're gonna say that this is a Japanese wrestler because skin tone is just more fun and unique to make the person Japanese. Like, I think Yokozuna was Samoan, if I'm not mistaken, and yeah, I think he was Samoan, and they utilized him as a Japanese wrestler. I think he did a great job, though. Like, as a kid, I didn't know any better. Hell, to this day, like, I didn't think I knew that up until a couple years ago, that he wasn't a Japanese wrestler. So, he played his role the right way. Andre the Giant. This isn't exactly the most pristine custom ever. Was this a custom I had to pick up? Not really. I think I bought this from a seller on eBay, Kyle, and yeah, I think this came from Lycan17, was that his screen name? And I think the only reason I bought this is, one, yeah, it was a custom, so I wanted more customs. But also, I think I only paid like $5 for it. Like, it wasn't expensive at all. Like, compared to a lot of my customs, literal pennies in comparison. And Andre the Giant. So, you can never go wrong with an Andre the Giant. I have always said, and I will always say, I've always said that this is my number 3 all-time favorite LJN. Now, when you start throwing in, like, variants, like, when I say Blackstrap Andre is 3A. Now, Series 2 Andre is 3B. Series 1 long-haired Andre is 3C. Realistically, when you're looking at your countdown, it's really numbers 3, 4, and 5. And that's not how I want to look at it. Realistically, I want to completely eliminate the Series 2 and Series 6 Andres from the roster and just kind of look at the Series 1, because I like the Series 1 better. Series 2 and 6 about the same thing, but their arms are about like right here. When you look at the Series 1 Andre, instead of his arms being like this, his arms are more like that. So just a slight differentiation from here to here, right? Or from here to here, etc. Just a slight differentiation, making it expand a little bit further, makes it a little bit more playable. And with guys like Stud and Hogan and Kamala, this right here is perfection. Because these figures not only have the most perfect body slam poses, but the way that their legs are separated and knees bent, they've got the perfect to be body slam pose. So that is why I covet those 4 figures so much. If it was just simply a Series 1 Andre going against Great Muta, I think, all in all, easy choice, Andre all day long. But there's so many Andres in this series, in this tournament, and I've already eliminated several Series 2 Andres repaints to Blackstrap and given it to others figures, just because I knew that their Series 6 repaints or Series 2 repaints to Blackstrap wouldn't beat an original Series 6 Blackstrap. So, like, in a situation like this where I know this wouldn't beat an original Series 1 type of deal, I don't know. This is I don't want to keep doing that. I think if this was a lot of different figures, like, just trying to look at the figures that I have here. Like, I'm thinking if this was like going up against like Davey Boy Smith from this video, I probably would have chosen him, right? But this is so well done. Paint-wise, this is well crafted. I think Great Muta deserves an opportunity to see a round 2. So I am going to go with Great Muta moved to round 2. And Andre in red is done for the tournament. And darn, I don't even remember if the original Series 1 Blue Andre even made it to round 2. Or if I've even seen that figure in this tournament yet. I've seen so many Series 2 and 6 figures, I can't remember if I've seen an original Series 1, though. That's fine. Well, I'm sure if the time comes, I'll make the right choice. But Great Muta defeats Andre the Giant. Well, guys, that does complete this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, guys, as always, it's been a pleasure. Talk to you guys later.